Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming, video on demand, and theatrical horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts Christopher G. Moore, Brian W. Smith, and I will take a look at very spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we are looking at Smile. And of course, Christopher is freaking me out right now. Oh my goodness. It is the #1 film in the box office with 22 million take. Yay. Let me introduce you to my crew, starting off with award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. His cheeks hurt. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Sorry, I got zoned out for a little bit there.
Zoned out.
I'm sorry. I was thinking about something else.
I was gonna say
my bad. I was thinking about like Anya Taylor-Joy for some reason. I'm sorry.
Oh no!
That was
make you smile.
I'm here. I'm here now.
Make you smile. Yeah, I was wondering how long I could.
We could have just done 30 minutes of me smiling, and then Brian was like, "Why am I here?"
Speaking of Brian, let me introduce award-winning screenwriter Brian W. Smith. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I enjoyed the film, and yeah, we're here to talk about Smile. So, smiles, right. Everyone smile.
Everyone smile. Of course, you'll get a chance to elaborate on that. So, what we're going to do is start off giving you our first impression of Smile. That'll be spoiler-free, and then we'll dive into a discussion, and we will get into spoilers and key plot points. So, keep that in mind, and then we'll wrap things up with our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. And of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. And if you would, hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend. It's easy and free to do, and every click counts. It will help us get to our goal of 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't subscribe, somebody outside your house will be smiling, looking at you. So don't let that happen.
Don't let it happen. All right, let's take a look at the card and get things going. Smile from Paramount, available in theaters beginning September 30th, 2022, just in time for October. Synopsis: after witnessing a bizarre traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she cannot explain. Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. Written and directed by Parker Finn. The cast includes Sosie Bacon, Caitlin Stasey, Kyle Gallner, Robin Weigert, and Jessie T. Usher. Yes, let's find out what our first impressions are, starting off with Brian W. Smith.
First impression of Smile, I went in, I was curious because Parker Finn, I'm familiar with his work. We screened one of his short films at New York City Horror, so nice. This was a big deal to see his feature debut. Sort of, tracking his trajectory there. Sorry, I'm stumbling there. Anyway, yeah, my first impression was I thought it was directed really well, written very well, really fine performance, lead performance by Sosie Bacon. I just found out she's Kevin Bacon's daughter and Vera Sedgwick's daughter, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, just a really, just overall, I went in with the impression that is this going to be another, Bye Bye Man, Wish Upon, sort of, Truth or Dale, you just sort of like rattle off all the titles. And I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I think it does cherry pick a lot of, familiar scares from, we'll rattle off a bunch of different movies, but I think it uses them effectively. And there's some really good dread and some good fine camera work and sound design. And yeah, it's deserving of its, #1 spot, and it's exciting to see original horror in that spot right now. So it's very inspiring, encouraging, and yeah, I'm all for it. So
all for it. And you saw it twice, so you can almost comment about your second impression.
I saw it at a free screening, and then went and paid for it again last night just to see the audience response. And there were some children in the audience talking throughout most of the film. So I was glad it was my second time. Definitely glad I was at my second time seeing it. Otherwise, I would have, just had to leave. But yeah, it was. I saw some fellow patrons like covering their eyes during particular jump scares and things like that. So that was kind of fun to observe. But
listen to them
yeah,
scream and yell. Yeah.
Yeah, and I stayed for a little bit of the credits, and there's some creepy sound design in the credits as you're walking out the theater. So that's it. It leaves its impression on you.
Definitely. Christopher G. Moore, what was your first impression of Smile?
Yeah, this is not like a one-trick smiling pony. This is it's more than just, because I think like a lot of us, we what can you do beyond this sort of idea or premise, and I think it really delivers, and a lot of that is based on, of course, the acting performances, especially by Bacon, but the cinematography is, I mean, for this to be a first feature for this director, there's a lot of kinetic camera work, and we were talking right before this, but Doc knew that like there's like a transition. This transition happens from like a window, like a whole window, to like overhead shot, and I was like, "Ooh, goody!" I was like, "That's my crack right there." So yeah, I really loved it. There's a lot of upside down camera works, rotate, and I mean, there's a lot of visual camera work, but also the editing is really well done, and how it sort of goes between sort of like, without giving too much away, between sort of like hallucinatory moments and or even just how it sort of builds jump scares and stuff, because there's like one that like something is about to happen but you still like they sort of do a great job of throwing you off where it's going to go. But yeah, I think my only issue is that even though I loved her performance, I had issues with the character being this person that has a degree in psychiatry, but just starts acting crazy right off the bat, and doesn't realize that people are gonna see you as crazy. So that was the only thing that kind of irritated me. But there's some really kind of crazy moments, even moments that I knew was going to happen. I don't want to say, but there's a moment that like I knew what was going to happen. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, I wanted to cover my eyes. I know what's about to happen here, but I was like, wow, that's to where there's I'll just say there's a little kid that's traumatized in this movie for good reason. So, but yeah, I thought this really well. It's got some well-crafted scares, some well-crafted creepy moments, and I think and I really love I love the big reveal at the very end.
Yes.
I think just the look of that big reveal, I was like, ooh, this is so cool. So yeah, it brought a lot of, even though it did sort of like Brian said, it does pull from a lot of different areas. There's a little bit of the Ring in there. There's a little bit of Hereditary, a lot of different things in there. But I think even though it has a million different ingredients, it still does a great job of mixing together to make something that's delicious and enjoyable by the end. And I got my food reference in there.
So, you did.
There you go, Doc.
I enjoyed the hell out of this. I was a little afraid it was going to be, one of those, it could be good, but it ends up being a stinker movies that we get a lot of times with these kind of films. But this one is so well made that I can't wait to see what this director does next. He really has a flair for building tension and handling the surroundings and the scenery and getting you to look in the corners to see if there's anything in the shadows. Everything was done much better than I was expecting, and all the actors are fantastic. Even some of the supporting actors, like the gentleman that's in the jail cell, was extraordinary. He did so much better than that performance needed, but it was such a standout. It was just so good. And it's bold when it needs to be. It still wears its influences on its sleeve, but yet it's somehow original at the same time. So it's a fascinating film, and I'm so glad that it's number one. And I'm excited. This year's been fantastic, and this is one of the films that I think is going to be talked about as time goes by.
Mm-hmm.
And it should get like the William Castle Award for great marketing.
Yes,
with
yes,
the,
marketing's
getting
fantastic.
creepy
Yeah.
people to smile at like baseball games. And I was like, as someone
that-
that like tries to do that with my own films, I'm really that I love the marketing campaign.
The William Castle Award. I love it.
And that was the risk. That was the risk where we thought, oh, this could go either way, you know, when they usually try to promote them too much. And like we've seen that in other films, but this one, it's such a simple concept, and you know, put together really well.
Yeah, what was it, that movie where they had the devil baby in the carriage that they had it out in the middle trying to scare people?
The Unborn or
The
Unseen
Unborn,
or something like that.
something like
Yeah, I
that.
can't remember what it was, and that was more entertaining than the movie. So that, yeah, at least that this delivered beyond the concept of creepy smelling people.
They had like priests outside with the devil inside. I remember seeing that.
Oh my God! Yes, yes.
They were like, oh.
They had nuns too. Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, Sosie Bacon is a huge reason why this works. She all like, you know, you should have had a little bit more of a grip. Things aside, her performance is amazing. I mean, I fully believe she was falling apart. You know. And I felt so sorry for her. It's like, oh no, we know people should listen, and I thought I really enjoyed this because there's a backstory with her mom, and that plays out really well, and they use that really well to get to the final location, and that helped the film quite a bit because it was run down house and gave it a little bit of you know, that creepy factor. Amped it up, right? And I usually get mad at, you know, when they have dreams and they wake up from the dreams. But this one has a great dream sequence that actually works incredibly well.
Well, a few different ones, and I you know, like we were talking before we were recording, I as someone that's a huge fan of Nightmare on Elm Street, there seems to be a lot of influences in regards to that, and it kind of makes me like, it's like, why aren't we having a new Nightmare on Elm Street if they do nightmare scenes like this, you know, to where, because this feels like the villain of this feels like a Freddy Krueger who sort of taps into your trauma and plays around with you in your mind and stuff. And so there's a lot of those moments to where, like, even when you're watching, it's like, is this real? Or even there's a point where it's like, this is too easy. This can't be real. So there are those moments, but yeah, there's a whole scene that takes place in the hospital that I was like, oh, I was not expecting that, and I kind of like that. You know, it's a really fun scene that feels very Freddy Krueger-ish, with even how it sort of ends.
I was so happy that scene was there.
Yeah, because I mean,
and it's in the number one movie.
Yeah, because on that one it's like it goes on. It's like, wait a minute, this is this is going weird.
Just keeps going.
Yeah, and then the guy's laughing. I'm like, oh wait, oh. I was like, okay, let's have more crazy dream sequences like this. This has sold me on, like, you know, doing another Nightmare on Elm Street, because I really, I mean, there's other films that kind of sold me on by this, but I think they do such a great job in sort of in melding those scenes together, you know, or just having crazy crap like that happen, or just the whole, or even just the whole confrontation at the very end is all kind of creepy and scary.
Did I even mention that Cal Penn is in this? Did I totally forget to mention that? Because he plays the doctor in that scene. You know, her boss.
Right.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by him in this.
Yeah, and he has a much bigger role than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was just going to be in that one scene that we saw in the trailer, but he actually shows up a few times, and I think his part is crucial, especially that dream sequence. Oh my God, that whole thing. What a great play. What a great part. What did you think of Jessie T. Usher as Trevor, her boyfriend, her fiance even, who
I wasn't totally sold on their relationship, but it was there, and I don't know. I was getting shades of like Candyman with the Trevor name. I was wondering if that was like a little nod.
There you go.
In there.
Then you
the guy from The Boys?
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you recognize him from A Train? From The Boys.
I just realized that now. That is real yeah, I thought he was okay. I don't know. I didn't really. I don't know. I just didn't see much chemistry between the two of them. But I guess it kind of makes sense. Everything kind of turns out, how he's not. But at the same time, I can also understand why you wouldn't believe her as well. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really. I didn't see. Yeah, I didn't see any kind of sparks between them. So I think that was probably one of the few weak links that didn't really work for me. I mean, I found much more of a connection between her and her ex than I found between her and her fiance, or even just other people in general. But yeah, he was a little bit cold to me. So, but it didn't take me out of it.
Well, I totally bought how that relationship spiraled as the more she would reveal.
Yeah,
because it was built on. Because that relationship was obviously built on more of a front than emotions. Like it was almost like a marriage of convenience that they were getting ready to. It felt like, right?
Yeah. Well, she also was even though it's kind of funny how she plays this sort of like psychiatrist or psychologist, in that hospital, but she's always the first to not really tell how she's feeling throughout the whole movie. And I think when the smiles hit the fan, that's when she just starts telling people what she feels, and she doesn't hold back. Although that we also have that moment where he sort of blames it on her trauma and stuff, and like,
yes,
ooh,
shouldn't have stepped on that.
Yeah. So then you kind of realize, well, he's not like he's not Mr. Nice Guy either.
Not at all. And of course, the ex is played by Kyle Gallner, who was in Scream this year, right?
For like 3 seconds, yep.
For 3 seconds.
I don't even. Oh, was he the? He was the bully guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the red herring.
Okay.
Right?
I didn't even. Remember, I didn't even remember him. So
I didn't either.
I wouldn't have known that until you mentioned that. Although he does a really good. He's more memorable in this.
I thought he did a great job, and of course, I thought. Okay, I just want to say it here, and I don't want to give too much away with this, but I thought the ending was very bold, and I appreciate it. Very 70s kind of take on it, in what it's trying to do, not necessarily how it's filmed or anything, but I liked. I would really appreciate the ending. Yeah,
I like
that too.
I like that last framing of what's happening in Eyes. I thought was just chef's kiss.
Yep, and the lighting and the sound design for that really sold it.
Well, the sound design throughout all of this just works so well. The sound design really works well when she's like looking at that sound that she recorded.
Oh my god! And they do a House on Haunted Hill moment in that. Oh
yeah. I was like, I kind of know where this is going.
Yep, I was a
little bit nervous because I don't want to. Because sometimes if I get too like shocked in the theater, I'll shout out like I have Tourette's and just yell a curse word.
I'll scream.
And luckily, they didn't give me that bad. But I was like, oh wow, they're really playing with you. They're doing like the whole sort of James Wan thing of like making you think it's going to happen here, but then it happens over here, or is like that. Yep. Haunting a Hill House, where you just that Haunting Hill House, you don't expect that at all. But this, you're expecting something to happen.
And it still gets you. And it still gets you. It got me.
Yeah.
Did it get you twice, Brian? I bet it got you twice.
It actually did, and because it seemed louder in the theater last night than it was even at the first screening, so it was even more like jarring, and it got everybody. So it was fun, but I knew it was coming. But I was just impressed with how he was able to craft these scares and make them effective, and just the economy of the script. Even the flashbacks weren't overbearing. He gave you just enough of the backstory of her character and the relationship with her sister, but he kept the story going forward. So it wasn't bogged down in plot mechanics. It was just it was a very lean story. And
they held back. They leaned in me, and they held back just enough to make that backstory potent when it needed to be.
It's one of those things to where like you have like a flashback thing, and later on you flashback, but you show elements before that, so you kind of like you peel the layers away to realize, okay, it's not exactly what you think it is, and so that's really great storytelling when you can do that, to where it's even though there's the economy of that, there's also, you repeat it for a reason, but in a different way that kind of, it adds more layers to what's happening. So it's not a waste, you know, when it comes to that, you know. But yeah, I think the dialogue is really great. I mean, especially the confrontation moments and different people. Either it's the confrontation that people think she's crazy, or even her ex, because just how he reacts to things seem very realistic, you know.
Yeah, that like when she's asking him to look up all the things and he's figuring it out, it's like that was really well done. That, you know, because they took the time to convert somebody, right, to a non-believer into a believer, and that worked so well. I totally bought that he would be by her side for the rest of the film. Yeah, because he was like, what's going on with you, man? And he's like not wanting to be in there, and then suddenly he realized, oh crap, there's a pattern here.
Yeah, awesome. Although they kind of explain how the whole, you know, mythology works before we even get to the prison. So to me, I kind of figured out, okay, that's how you stop it. So, but I guess you just have to have the guy to explain that you know.
But it was a great scene, though. That scene is.
Oh yeah, it was still a really well acted and a powerful scene with that character. You know, it's like, don't bring that stuff in here.
Who's you? I mean, we get to see a lot of that in the trailer, but it's the whole scene as it fits in the film is done so extraordinarily well. And then that poor kid, you mentioned it when the kids were screaming.
I don't know about you, Brian, but I laughed. I'm probably a bad person for laughing. But, you know, like, again, I mentioned earlier, but when we weren't like being specific, but there's a whole birthday party thing that I knew when she brought her gift. I was like, oh my God, I know what's in that box.
No, I didn't. I thought it was going to be the train.
I definitely.
I knew. Oh no! I was like, no, because there's too much anxiety. There's too much build up to opening this present, and that's where a certain thing went. And so, but then, I mean, that
but he timed it very well.
Yeah, it timed it very well. But
the kid's reaction was fantastic.
But the funny thing is, later on, when she goes to confront the sister, or talking to the sister, and she goes in a car, she's acting crazy in the car, the kid is watching her from the window, and I laughed so hard because like, this kid is so effed up for the rest of his life. And just know, like, my aunt is totally batshit crazy. I'm probably a horrible human being for laughing it up, but I found that to be so funny because I was like, man, this kid is not getting any breaks here.
but I like that because it added some, in a strange way, it added authenticity to her behavior and her reaction, right? Yeah. Just seeing it from his point of view, it gave it a really interesting other way of looking at what's happening to her. I really liked it. Really liked it. Let's go ahead.
Although I just want to say,
and we have other perspectives now if they do it equal.
Yeah.
They set it up.
I do want to say, this is after seeing how they marketed Barbarian. There's things they show in the trailer that I really wish that they'd saved for the movie, because I think the whole sister part,
even though they
could have been held back,
but they still make the most.
Yeah.
They still make the most of it, even though we've seen that. Because what happens
now, you just expect it. You're like, oh, this is that scene. So.
Yep. Yeah, it took some of the wind out of the sails, but at the same time, it worked really well. And what happened after that was really well done, which we talked about. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. Brian, you are up first.
I really enjoyed the film. I think I'll give it a 4.5.
Sure.
Is that a thing?
Yep, that's a thing. 4.25 is a thing. 4.75 is a thing.
Yeah, 4.5. Only because like I said, I recognize some of the scares. I recognize some of this stuff. It was done well. It was like an homage to, all the, really effective scares that we've seen in films like The Ring and It Follows. I mean, it literally is like a hodgepodge of that, but it wasn't obnoxious about it. It was just sort of wearing it, like you said, Chris, it's just took the recipe and made something even even better, even more sumptuous to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And the performance is really good, and especially the lead. I think she'll be up for a Fangoria Chainsaw Award or something. But
yeah, definitely.
favorite scene, I guess I'll have to go with the opening, the scene with Laura. I hadn't seen Parker's short film Laura Hasn't Slept, which I think this led to this feature. But I believe she is the Laura of that short, so she's sort of playing that character here in the feature. But I just thought that whole opening scene of her, especially her reaction to what wasn't there. I feel like we see that a lot in films, but here they sold it with the sound design, with just her reaction on the floor and just freaking out. You're like, she's seeing something, really, demented, and whatever she's seeing, she's selling it. And so I thought that really was effective to sell the horror of it, and just how it affects Rose from that point on. And poor Rose, she didn't she didn't deserve any of this, but that's where the horror comes in. It's not like, but then again, is she atoning for her past with her mom? Maybe that's the revenge part of it. But overall, I'd say that scene with Laura in the hospital was my favorite scene.
It certainly set the tone for the rest of the film, for sure, because it ends so horrifically as well. I'll take it. Christopher G. Moore, what is your score and favorite scene?
Although I will say they missed out on a welcome back Cotter joke.
No, stop.
Hey, Dr. Cotter. Only a small bit of the people watching this probably get that joke. I will say I'll give it a 4.5 as well. I think it's I think it's one of those films that kind of takes the things that it's sort of paying homage to, but it does a great job of sort of doing its sort of own thing, even though you could sort of see that it wears its influences on its sleeve, or on its smile, I guess. But yeah, I'll get a 4.5. As for favorite scene, I mean, there's a lot of scenes I could pick from this. But I'm gonna, without giving too much away, I'll say the big reveal of what the final reveal of the creature.
Yes,
I'll just say that much. I love the look of that, even though it I guess a little bit CGI, but it was very, because I don't know about you guys, I was like, oh, it was already creepy enough, but then that big reveal, oh. And then what it does after that, it's like, whoa!
Oh my god, what it does after? Yeah.
So I think that whole, the big reveal scene of how it sort of takes over people was kind of an interesting thing. So yeah, I to where it was like, wow, that's definitely nightmare imagery right there. That's something you don't see every day. So I'll say that around that scene. Yeah,
and that could have went horribly wrong if they didn't do it as well as they did. Because how many times have we built up something and it's just like, but it's going to be one of the best things of the year when you talk about that reveal. Great scene. I wrote down 4.25, but I wouldn't hesitate to give it 4.5 as well. Now that we've talked about it, I've got to find a way to put this on my list. There's so many good things. We were talking about it before the show, Christopher, that this year is, there's so many number ones at the theater. There's also so many different really good horror films out, and original horror films. It's been quite the year for horror. It's going to be a really difficult year to do the top 10, or
maybe do like a top 15 or top 20 at this point.
There's going to be like honorable mentions are going to be an hour long. So this was well done, and I can't wait to see what Parker Finn does next. I hope he keeps doing original stuff. I kind of fear like he's going to end up doing a property, or he'll end up getting in the Conjuring universe or something, and doing stuff. But I'd like I think this is the guy to do unique, individual, original content because he's got the hang of it. And my favorite scene, I'm going to go kind of toward the end as well, because I didn't get a chance to bring it up, but there's and I'm going to call it the mom monster, air quotes, the mother monster, and especially the size of it. And it I don't know if it reminds you guys of It Follows, like when the big guy came out of the shadow. It was like the sound effects, a thump, thump, thump as it was coming after her, and it just looks so. I think that whole scene where it comes after her had me more tense than any other scene. I was just like, oh my god, this thing. It's just, I don't know. There's something about it, like, because in It Follows, that was one of the scenes that really got me too. And so I must be something in my head about that. But I really like the whole thing, because we're in the character's head by this time, right? We know the backstory. We know what she did. And we know that, we know the meaning behind that visual. And even though it's, so large and out of proportion, but it still has that meaning behind it, so it's quite potent.
Yeah, it's very Slender Man-ish, and
there's some of that, a
little bit of that, but it also being in a dark area kind of helps with the scariness.
I was getting like Blair Witch, and even Stephen King's It has like a large scene.
Yeah,
It was definitely pulling from a lot of recent things. And also I wasn't sure at first if I know it was wearing against the mom's face and it was supposed to be elongated, but I wasn't sure I was sold on the face. It kind of took me out of it and kind of made me think like it looked like a death metal lead singer or something.
It did look like a guy instead of a girl.
Who's the typo negative guy that passed away? Like Peter Steele, his name was. That type of. I don't know. It's like Marilyn Manson type. Like it was like, I don't know.
It was very horror She-Hulk. The horror version of She-Hulk at some point.
Yeah. Something about it where it was better when it was left unseen, but it was fine.
I don't know. I like that. To me, it creeped me out. It was so it was contorted
when
too.
When it finally reveals.
The final reveal, it did it for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I love the bold, like I said earlier, the fact that it ended the way it did, and it set up a next one wonderfully well. So, would you go see Smile 2? Or you want to be one?
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, yeah,
Smiles.
Smile harder. I don't know.
Smile harder.
Smile 2, electric smile a do. I don't know. I'm sure.
I can already see I can see the two now doing the spiral.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh my god! All right.
That's how I think.
You've spoiled it already. All right. That's our review for Smile, out in theaters now. Check it out. We want to hear your comments. Leave them down below. What did you think of the movie? Are we overplaying it, or did you love it as much as we did? I'm very happy that we all liked it as much. I wasn't really sure, but it does warm my soul. So thank you guys. Christopher, Brian, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Always fun.
All right, let's say good night.
Good night.